We're continuing on Mishna Berura, Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim, Siman Kuf Lamed Hey, the halachot of Kriyat Torah. We are up to see if you Dalit. Bnei Adam hachavushin bebet ha'asurim, en meviin etzlam sefer Torah. If you have people who are kept as prisoners, they are in jail, and they are Jews, so they need to also have the Sefer Torah. Do you bring Sefer Torah to them, or is that considered a disrespect for the Sefer Torah to be carried for a sorech of other people? In other words, simply put, when yes and when not carrying the Sefer Torah, what is considered a good reason and what is not considered a good reason? Like sometimes you take the Sefer Torah out in the streets for Simchat Torah or for Achnasat Sefer Torah. Is that considered a legitimate reason to take it out? In many of the Sephardic and Ashkenazi countries, they used to take the Sefer Torah out to greet the king, right? There's a whole debate whether or not you leave the parchment in, you don't leave the parchment in. All of that stems from this halakha that you can't just take the Sefer Torah out for any reason. And this question comes up, of course, in many occasions. You want to go for a vacation with the family when the schools are off and so on, and you have enough people who get together to travel together and have a minyan. Can you take a Sefer Torah and travel with the Sefer Torah? A person that has Rahman al-Litzlan, a mourner in the family, and there is a mourner's minyan. Can you and imagine it's only one day that you want, for one day you want to have a minyan? Can you take the Sefer Torah out or not? All of that really starts from here. You do not bring, you cannot move the Sefer Torah for the tzorech of the people who are in jail, even on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And the Rama adds, that is saying that you can't take the Sefer Torah to the jail, read it, and then take it back. That you cannot do. But if you bring a Sefer Torah from before, from Yom or Yomayim Kodem, a day or 2 days before, and you have a respectable box in Aron to put it in, a proper place for it, then mutar. Then says the Rama is mutar. And if it is a very important person that you are doing this for, then bechol inyan shari. Then it's mutar in any case that you do. If there's someone that needs, like imagine if you have a gadol Yisraeli that needs a private minyan. Now, the Maran Chida writes that people who are in jail is very specific, because if you take a look at the Mishnah Berura in Sif Katan Memvav over here that we have, the Chafetz Chaim writes people who are kept in prison, vehu hadin lechole. The same halakha is for a sick person that needs a minyan at home, right? In COVID, of course, this became very relevant because there were people who felt they had enough immediate family members that they could have from the family members a minyan in their home. So can you bring Sefer Torah? So the Chafetz Chaim writes, no, you can't, because the same halacha as Shulchan Aruch applies to a chole as well. Maran Chida disagrees with that. Maran Chida writes that a chole, you could bring a Sefer Torah for them. Chacham Badia, it seems like he paskins like this Maran Chida as well in this scenario, and he says basically that Maran Shulchan Aruch only has prohibited it for a chavush bebet asurim, and therefore it does not cover any other scenario. Says Chacham Badia, v'yesh cholkin bechol zeh. And there are those who disagree with this, says the Mishnah Berura, because these people are forced, they are anus. It's not that they're ignoring the Kriyat Torah. It's not that they're holding their kavod up, expecting the Torah come to them. They're stuck, right? They have no way out. And says the Chafetz Chaim ubeparashat Zachor shehu deoraita bevadai yesh lahakel. Parashat Zachor, which is one parasha, which is a biblical obligation for them to listen to, perhaps according to Maran Shulchan Aruch will be parashat para as well. Then yesh lahakel, you could be mekel. Efshar dewadin kam beparashat para. He says, the Chafetz Chaim says even parashat para we may be mekel as well, and that's what Chabadia says. The Parashat Zachor, Parashat Para, both of them according to Maran Shulchan Aruch are deoraita, and therefore even for people who are in jail, you could take the Sefer Torah for them with you to read it, right? With you to read it, and that means like if you are a Rabbi Ari Levine of Shalom Tzaddik of Yerushalayim used to go visit the prisoners in Eretz Yisrael. That means he could have taken a Sefer Torah with him and take it back with him, right? There was a person that asked me a question. He's a Chabad rabbi, and one of the families that are very wealthy families that are connected with him, they have their own personal small Sefer Torah that they paid a lot of money for, very tiny Sefer Torah, and their child was getting married, and they wanted to bring this Sefer Torah walk down the chuppah, right? This is Sefer Torah in their family, and this. And so I told him, I said, look, first of all, regardless of the halacha, it should be asur. Why? Because even if you find the halachic heter, the next thing you know, every wedding is going to have, it becomes like chok v'lo yavor, and then who knows what's going to happen. But halachically speaking, you can't just take a Sefer Torah out of its place and carry it around for not sufficient enough of a reason. And again, that's what we are dealing with over here. But for Parashat Zachor, Parashat Para, you could do that. You could take it to jail as you visit the prisoners and read for them Parashat Zachor and take the Sefer Torah back with you, right? So it says the Mishna Berura.
Was that according to Ramah, or that's the?
No, even according to Maran. Yeah.
That's only because it's been directed for Zachor?
That's correct.
All the Midrabanan
That's what we're saying. Shulchan Aruch writes you cannot take a Sefer Torah when you're not placing it there to stay. You're just taking it around to jail for prisoners. You cannot do that on a regular Shabbat, a regular parasha. But Parashat Zachor and Parashat Para, because there are those who disagree with this Shulchan Aruch, we rely on those mekelim when it comes to the Deoraita parashiot of Zachor and Para. So it says the Mishnah Berura, this that you can't bring and meviin kedei likrot ba ba'asara. We're talking about a case that you want to bring Sefer Torah and read it ba'asara. We're not talking about the case that you don't have a minyan. The Torah does not go to people. People go to the Torah. Right? Just like we spoke right now in the 2-minute Dvar Torah and Parasha, that Aaron noseh et nos'av. The badim of the Aaron, you think you're supporting it. The Torah is supported. The Torah is the ikar. You go to the Torah. See, some people, when they're taking the Sefer Torah out, Hotzat Sefer Torah, they make sure to take it to people. Don't do that. You go, whatever path it is to the bima you take, and people have to come to the Sefer Torah. You don't take the Sefer Torah to people. So says the Mishnah Berura, don't ask hard questions. Right? The kavod of the Sefer Torah is that people should be going to it, not that it should be going to people. ועיין בביאור ההלכה שכתבנו דווקא כשאין שם 10, אבל כשיש שם 10 חבושים מותר. So it says, the Mishnah Berura, if you take a look in Biur Halakha, I explained that if you have already a minyan in jail of the Jews, not that you're taking minyan to them, but they have already a minyan over there, that would be mutar. Now, then this is a big chiddush, because you have sometimes in the larger cities, unfortunately, you have more than 10 Yehudim in a jail, and that would be a leniency according to the Mishnah Berura as well. Now, this, the Kaf HaChaim explains, that the isur of bringing Sefer Torah to jail is only when it's be'ofan arai. You're taking it temporarily transfer, but if you're bringing it in order for the Sefer Torah to be the jail's Sefer Torah, so to speak, it's staying in the jail, but derech kviut, staying in there, there's no isur. The fact that it's a jail, and it's not a problem as long as they have a proper bekavodik place for it. They have a clean room with the aron, and it's respected properly. That's fine. There's no problem with that, says the Kaf HaChaim. And he also writes that in Et Sarah, when things are difficult in the community, you cannot bring Sefer Torah and bring it to the Bet HaKevarot. There was such a minhag that they would go to the Kivrei Tzadikim to take the Sefer Torah to Bet HaKevarot, and they would read it there in a minyan. And he rejects this. The Kaf HaChaim very strongly pushes back on this, says you cannot do this. If you can't take this out for jail, you cannot take it to this for sure. That's what kind of, for a skula or for inyan of tefillah, you can't just take out Sefer Torah in that way. And there's a diyun, there's discussion, even taking a Sefer Torah within the same building from cheder to cheder, from one room to another in the same binyan. Haradia says is basically mutar. There's not much to be concerned about because the whole binyan, the whole building is one reshut. So you're taking it from one room to another. That's not really a big deal. And this, very, very much is applicable to those shuls who have a multiple minyanim, or in Simchat Torah, when you want to have more aliyot at a side room from a different Sefer Torah, in order for everyone, it's a minhag that everyone gets an aliyah for Rosh Hashanah. Some kilot have the same minhag. So you have a breakaway room basically, and you take a Sefer Torah there. That is completely fine. There's no problem because there's no gnai in doing that for the Sefer Torah, and they bring in the name of Chacham Obadiah as well that the people who are davening in Kotel HaMa'aravi, they could take the Sefer Torah from the inside of that cave, like next to the Me'ara, and the left front side of the Kotel, because all the Aronot Kodesh many times are there. Then even though that they bring some of them out, but you're taking it to the Kotel HaMa'aravi, even though that the Kotel doesn't have really any open area, but it's considered the area of Kotel. That is considered one area. Therefore, there's no zilzul chas v'shalom for the Sefer Torah, and that would be mutar as well. Now, this concept that we mentioned, that you go to the Sefer Torah and not expecting the Sefer Torah to come to people, so whenever you are taking the Sefer Torah for the kavod of the Sefer Torah, that doesn't apply, right? If it's not for a person, it's rather for the kavod of the Sefer Torah. So, for instance, they want to, you want a what?
Repair it.
You want to repair the Sefer Torah, right? That's a great example. A psul, and you want to put it in the car and take it to the sofer or to the store. A Judaica store and fix it. That's for the kavod of the Sefer Torah. You could carry it, no problem, right? Or if it's for Simchat Torah, same, very, very similar to that as well. You're taking it for Simchat Torah, it's for kavod of the Sefer Torah. How about when you're taking Sifrei Torah, which is the minhag that people do, you take the Sifrei Torah out to greet a new Sefer Torah when you have Hachnasat Sefer Torah. As the proceeding is getting closer to the shul, people come up and they take all the Sifrei Torah to the street, so to speak, to dance with the new Sefer Torah incoming. So that again is considered part of the Kavod Torah as well, and it's mutar to take it out. And same would be for Simchat Torah, that they take the Sifrei Torah dancing from one shul to another, especially in the olden time when the Jewish quarter was a very closed circle of shuls and so on. I remember when I used to go visit the ghetto of the Jews in the central Tehran, when it used to be, and then now it became like the downtown of Tehran. It was a place, they called it Mahaleh. And when I was a little kid, my father monthly would go to divide his maaser and give them food and support and so on. So he would take me along, and there was a cul-de-sac, a small, very small alley that was called the Alley of Seven Shuls. This small thing. They had 7 Batei Knesset. Only one of them was standing at that moment, and it was not like really an operational shul anymore. This is like, only a few individuals were left in that area. But again, when you had this type of close Jewish communities, people would take the Sefer Torah, dance in the streets, go from one shul to another. It's brought everyone together with Simchat Torah, and that the Kaf HaChaim says it is mutar as well. Because it's all done for Kavod Torah, and says the Kaf HaChaim, but it's proper to do it with a minyan, a escort of a minyan. So when you do take the Sefer Torah, even when it's for the Kavod of the Sefer Torah, you want to have a proper escort for it. It says 10, but at least you should have 3 at the very least, and that would be mutar. Now, says the Mishnah Berura. Now, one more thing. The Mishnah Berura writes in Berura Halacha, as we just mentioned a minute ago, that when you have a minyan in jail, then it's mutar, and that's a game changer. Because again, in many cases, you have a daf yomi shiur in jail. Unfortunately, but you could have a minyan there. So if you do have a minyan, according to the Mishnah Berura, the problem does not exist really. And that's what Chacham Ovadia conquers as well. His maskara is that you could rely on this, that when you have a minyan over there, it's very different, and you could bring Sefer Torah to any minyan of people who cannot go to shul, and they're in one place, then you could bring a minyan to them. Sometimes you're stuck, for instance, in a snowstorm. If you have a snowstorm and people cannot get out of their home because of the roads are all blocked with a few feet of snow, and until the government gets to cleaning it up, it'll take a few days. So you want to bring a Sefer Torah to a place that people are stuck, basically, that can't go out. So it would be the same thing, because you have a minyan of people there. So it's not that you're taking a minyan to somewhere, like you have 2 people, 1 person in jail, and you bring a minyan to them, but rather as a minyan of people who is impossible for them to come to the Sefer Torah, then the Sefer Torah could be going to them in that scenario, which is again a very important yidiyah, part and parcel of this seif in Shulchan Aruch.
Isn't it a requirement, Rabbi, that we should read 3 times from the Torah when we take it somewhere?
So we're going to discuss that as well. Again, so we mentioned that when you transfer the Sefer Torah, you still need a proper escort for the Sefer Torah, which again, this is one of the hard parts of having 10 people escorting the Sefer Torah. And we mentioned that those who are more lenient by an escort of 3, but nevertheless, says the Mishnah Berura, even on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, you cannot take Sefer Torah to jail, to someone that is spending time in prison. ומה שהולכים מבית כנסת מניין אנשים לאיזה בית ונושאים ספר תורה עמהם כדי לקרוא שם, this that there is a minhag, that a minyan of people go and take a sefer Torah with them to a house to read, ודאי אינו נכון. That's not a good minhag, because that's exactly what the Shulchan Aruch says not to do. אפשר להם לשמוע קריאה בבית כנסת. Why don't they come to the shul? It's not that they're stuck at home. They're taking Sefer Torah with themselves to a room, to a home, outside to do it, and that's not a proper minhag. ויש שמצטטים עליהם זכות, משום שכל אחד רוצה בעצמו לעלות בתורה בימים האלה, There are those who say, no, it's mutar because it's eventually for kavod Torah. These people on Rosh Hashanah, they want to get an aliyah because of this minhag that everyone gets an aliyah. So therefore they're doing it like that. Our enzim must speak. But says the Mishna Berura, don't give me that reason. That's not sufficient enough of a reason to be mezalzel to the kavod of Sefer Torah to carry it somewhere else. But again, when we mentioned in the shul from one room to another, that's fine. But taking it outside to a different house to create the minyan, that already, says the Mishna Berura, is not acceptable halachically, and therefore should not be done, even though that it seems like this was something they did in the time of the Mishna Berura. He rejects it, and he basically says it's not sufficient reason to be relied upon. And if you want to take a Sefer Torah from one Bet Knesset to another Bet Knesset, the Kaf HaChaim says that you could do that, but you need 10 people. So therefore, this happens all the time. There are Bate Knesset who are newer, and they, for Yom Kippur, they want 3 Sifrei Torah for Kol Nidrei, for instance, right? So the shul doesn't have 3 Sifrei Torah; they have only 1, they have 2. Or Kaf HaChaim brings a minhag that they would bring 7 Sifrei Torah out. And there are shuls that they have 15, 20 Sifrei Torah. They're not going to necessarily use all of them. So what happens is many Bate Knesset or Minyanim, they borrow Sefer Torah for a Minyan. So even though that you're taking it to an existing Minyan as a shul, it's not disrespectful in that way. Says the Kaf HaChaim, you need to have a livui av asara. 10 people escorting the Sefer Torah properly, and that's of course something that is harder to do with our distances and having cars and so on and so forth. So that's something that a person should be discussing with their Moreh Hora'ah if it becomes if it becomes lemaaseh, if it becomes a question, practical question. Now, Chacham Obadia writes, when you are taking it in a very respectful way with a car, you bring your Rolls Royce and you want to take it in a car very nicely, and it's standing up. You're not putting it down. It's standing up. It's strapped nicely. It's safe, and so on. You don't necessarily need 10 people escort. So that makes a big difference. But if you're taking it from a shul here across the street, and you're carrying it, so then it will become actually more complex, because you would need 10 people to escort the Sefer Torah properly, and that's important to keep in mind as well. Now, a Sefer Torah that is hosted in a private home, many people own their own Sefer Torah, right? And they keep it as long as they have an aron, they have a proper place for it, and so on. The Kaf HaChaim writes, it's mutar to bring it to Bet Knesset in order to read from the Sefer Torah, even without having an escort of 10 people, because whenever the Sefer Torah is in Bet Knesset, that's not its kavod to take it out of the Sefer Torah, out of the Bet Knesset that's being read in the Bet Knesset. But if you're taking it from a home that is not being read properly in the Sibur, and you're taking it to a shul to be read, that's upgrade. You're going from a house that doesn't have a minyan, you don't read the Sefer Torah, and you're taking it to a shul to read it. That's considered already a kavod for the Sefer Torah to be read properly, betzibur, so it's not a downgrade. So from shul to shul is not an upgrade necessarily, it's the same. So you need a minyan asara to escort the Sefer Torah. But if you're taking it from a bait prati to a shul, says the Kaf HaChaim, you don't necessarily need even the 10 people escorting the Sefer Torah. And that's what the Ben Ish Chai writes also in Torah Lishma. Well, we generally assume that he wrote the Sefer Torah Lishma, that a Sefer Torah that is found in a regular home without having a minyan there and so on, is just sitting there, no one reads from it, it's mutar to take it to Bet Knesset, because this Sefer doesn't have a kviut makom. Kviut makom, a set place, is when the Torah is being used and being read and learned from in that place, but here it's just sitting there. It's a storage, basically. As nice as the house may be, is being stored there, is not being used, and therefore they could take it to wherever they want, and it's the tiltul of it is not considered a disrespect. It's actually an upgrade for it, because now it's going to be read, and the brachot are going to be said on it. Therefore, it's fine. Now, we're basically now holding in Yom Yomayim, which is going to address your question of whether or not you need more than one day, how many readings of Sefer Torah you need from it, and so on and so forth, which Be'ezrat Hashem we will continue in the days to come.